Welcome back to Top 5.
The air on Mount Olympus was thick, humming with a mix of anticipation and dread. Spectators from every corner of the cosmos crowded the seats of the grand stadium, whispering in awe and fear at what was about to unfold. Titans leaned on crumbling marble columns. Ancient demigods held their breath, and primordial creatures huddled in the shadows, eager to witness the first round of the Who Will Win tournament. At the center of the arena stood Astarte, ranked 14th in the tournament. She radiated divine power, her form glowing with a fierce, ethereal light. Clad in armor made from stardust and cosmic energy, she gripped her blade with practiced poise, each edge shining with the glimmer of galaxies. Her eyes burned with the confidence and determination of a seasoned warrior, her aura of both love and war mingling into a presence that was at once mesmerizing and terrifying. Opposite her, emerging from a dark rift that seemed to tear the very fabric of Olympus, was Cthulhu, ranked 19th. The air grew cold as he rose, the darkness coiling around him like an infectious fog. His massive, hunched form loomed over the arena, tentacles writhing and pulsating from his face. His skin was a sickly green, mottled and slimy, exuding an aura of ancient, incomprehensible dread that twisted reality around him. As Cthulhu's many eyes locked onto Astarte, a collective shiver ran through the audience. This was no ordinary opponent, he was a cosmic entity, a being from a realm beyond the gods themselves. A trumpet blared, and the announcer's voice boomed, "Round 1 of Who Will Win begins now." The arena vibrated with the sound, and Astarte surged forward, a streak of light hurtling toward Cthulhu. Her blade glowed with the combined force of her divine power, love's purifying energy and war's destructive fury blended into a blinding weapon of light. With a mighty cry, she swung her sword down on Cthulhu, severing several of his writhing tentacles in a single stroke. Black, viscous blood sprayed from the wounds, sizzling as it touched the ground. Cthulhu recoiled, but only briefly. With a guttural roar, he raised a massive clawed hand and slammed it down toward Astarte. The goddess deftly dodged, rolling across the ground as Cthulhu's strike cracked the marble beneath them, sending shockwaves through the arena. Astarte seized the moment, lunging forward and driving her blade into Cthulhu's arm. The creature let out a monstrous scream as Astarte's blade sank deep, her divine energy scorching his eldritch flesh. But Cthulhu was not so easily defeated. With a flick of his injured arm, he sent Astarte flying across the arena. She landed with a crash, her armor dented and her breath coming in gasps. As she struggled to her feet, Cthulhu loomed over her, his tentacles reaching out, trying to ensnare her. The goddess's expression remained defiant as she raised her hand, summoning a blinding light that shot out, striking Cthulhu's tentacles and forcing them back. Astarte pressed her advantage. Summoning all her divine might, she called down a storm of lightning from the heavens. Bolts of divine energy rained down, striking Cthulhu with relentless force, each one searing his monstrous form. Smoke rose from Cthulhu's flesh, and his many eyes flickered with what seemed like pain. Yet, even as Astarte poured her strength into her assault, the creature's eldritch form twisted and regenerated, his wounds closing, and his tentacles regrowing almost instantly. A grim realization dawned on Astarte. Cthulhu was not bound by mortal laws, he was not like any opponent she had faced before. If she could not destroy him entirely, he would continue to regenerate and retaliate, drawing the battle out until she wore down. Cthulhu raised his hands, and from them erupted an aura of darkness, a wave of pure, malevolent energy that spread across the arena, smothering Astarte's light. She staggered as the oppressive force bore down on her, an overwhelming dread clawing at her mind, threatening to break her spirit. This was Cthulhu's true power, the ability to induce despair, to tear at the very soul with a presence that defied comprehension. But Astarte would not be so easily defeated. Clenching her fists, she forced herself to stand, her form flickering as her divine light fought back against the darkness. She closed her eyes, focusing on the source of her strength, the duality of her nature, the powers of love and war, the forces that had guided her through countless battles. With a fierce cry, she unleashed a shockwave of light that tore through Cthulhu's aura, dispersing the darkness. In one last, desperate attempt to end the battle, Astarte channeled all her remaining energy into her blade, transforming it into a weapon of pure divine power. She dashed forward, her speed blurring, her form a comet of light streaking toward the heart of her monstrous foe. With a cry that echoed across Olympus, she plunged her blade into the center of Cthulhu's chest, aiming directly for the core of his being. Cthulhu let out a shattering, inhuman scream as Astarte's blade sank deeper, the divine energy searing his flesh, tearing through the eldritch substance that bound him. His form began to convulse, his tentacles flailing wildly, his many eyes rolling back in pain and rage. The ground shook as his colossal body twisted, his dark blood spilling across the arena, hissing and bubbling where it touched the sacred stones of Olympus. For a moment, it seemed as though Astarte might have won. But then, Cthulhu's form rippled, and an unholy power surged outward, knocking Astarte back with a force that shattered her armor and sent her sprawling. Her divine light flickered, her strength nearly exhausted, as she struggled to rise. Cthulhu's eyes glowed with a sickly green light, his wounds beginning to close once more as his eldritch form regenerated. With a final, earth-shaking roar, Cthulhu lifted one massive, clawed hand and brought it down on Astarte. She raised her hands in a last attempt to shield herself, but her strength was nearly gone. The crowd fell silent as the goddess's form was engulfed in darkness, her radiant light snuffed out beneath Cthulhu's crushing power. When the dust settled, only Cthulhu stood in the center of the arena, scarred but victorious. His form was battered, his movements slower, but he had survived, his cosmic horror overpowering even a goddess of war and love. The crowd sat in stunned silence, the gods of Olympus themselves watching in awe as Cthulhu let out a low, victorious growl. The announcer's voice rang out across the stadium, almost hesitant, as though the words themselves were a concession to something beyond mortal understanding.